Welcome to the kickoff episode of a new series here on the podcast. And I believe it will evolve, it will extend itself to becoming a piece of literature, a book, a manual, but something tangible. But today, I just want to introduce the idea that was dropped into my awareness, my spirit, my heart. What am I? And why does it matter? I think that this is the most important question we could ask. I believe that it is the missing piece to the puzzle of life. I believe that it is critically important to the body of Christ, faith based organizations, Christians at large, humanity at large, but specifically for those who are of the faith, those who, as we say, name the name of Christ, because our faith is built on a redemption, a restorative message. The only way that you are to be restored, the only way that you are to be redeemed is that something was lost. And what I believe was lost was a sense of self. The garden story was based on a conversation, Genesis 3, a conversation that questioned our character and our completeness. I believe that that conversation is continuing today in the hearts and minds of humanity. What's your character? Who are you really? Are you complete? Are you enough? These are the life gripping questions, whether they are articulated verbatim, as what I just described, or other words are being used, but the essence of this question is at the center of man's heart. I don't believe that there's any more important topic. And so I'm planting my flag here. For years, I've gone by I guess, the persona, Mr. What. I've used it in my intros and other videos, but it's come full circle. It's more than just a catchy nickname or online avatar. It's at the core of what I believe I am to do in this world, to address the what of man. What am I? We have been distracted, tempted, misaligned with the hunt for who am I? Why am I? While never attaching that connective piece to the puzzle. What am I? What informs who? What informs why? So we have this dilemma in our lives where we want to know who we are and operate as such. We want to know why we are. We want a sense of purpose and meaning and fulfillment and contentment, and but the one thing that informs these two areas of our lives is the one place we've been conditioned to ignore. We skip right over what and we go straight for the who. We go straight for the why. And I see this as a puzzle piece because you have these two ends of us. Who am I? Why am I? Why am I here? Who am I to be in the world? How am I to show up? And we don't have the piece in the middle that connects both of them and informs both of them. The self concept is perhaps the most important thing for you to be aware of, to appreciate, to accept as something that is internally driving everything you do. The quality of life you create, the level of achievement that you aspire to and attain, the level of personal fulfillment and contentment. It's all in the concept. It's all in the concept that you have of yourself, the self concept. And so in this series, I'm going to be introducing and I'm going to be breaking down my signature framework: self concept, self communication, self capacity. These three, these three are what we need to be extremely familiar with. Concept determines the conversation. The conversation determines the capacity. In the garden, our challenger understood this. Through the conversation, our concept was challenged. And we considered our concept to not be complete without the attainment of something else. At the very least, we considered our concept not as adequate or able to be improved upon through the work, through the reaching out for, through the effort, through the toil. One thing I've discovered about the tree is that any tree, it stands and it presents itself. The only way you can get fruit from a tree is for you to extend your arm, for you to reach, to work, to put forth effort. At worst, a piece of fruit falls to the ground. You must still reach to pick it up. So it was through our work, through our effort, through our reaching that we were led to believe that we could become more, that we could complete ourselves, that we could build our capacity for whatever it was that we were after. And so the storyline continues today. The capacity is determined by the conversation that we have within ourselves. In the garden, the conversation with the challenger created a conversation within ourselves, and we considered the fruit. But the conversation that we had within ourselves was centered on the concept that we had of ourselves. God knows that if you eat of this fruit, you will become like. I don't claim to understand how it all worked, how it all came to be. I don't claim to understand all the intricate details, but I do claim to understand that something happened at some point and that it had to do with this thing called the concept. And that concept has a profound impact on the conversation. And the conversation has a profound impact on the capacity that we have to maintain, fill in the blank, maintain peace, maintain wellness, maintain optimism, maintain hope, whatever it is that we're desiring to maintain, the capacity to maintain it begins with the concept that lends to the conversation, that ultimately lends to the capacity to maintain it. This also lends to management. Whatever you want to manage in this world, when people speak of burnout, overwhelm, stressed, depressed, that has to do with a internal overload. Physical toil does not burn you out. It makes you tired, fatigued, but the internal emotional condition that we describe as burnout, I'm burnt out, that is a product of a internal capacity overload. You don't have the capacity to manage the weight, the load, the burden. When we burn out, when we are overwhelmed, when we have a meltdown emotionally, internally, it is always a capacity issue. That capacity to manage life's challenges, to navigate the winding turns of life, that capacity to manage that begins with your concept. That concept lends to the conversations that you have within yourself, that leads to the development, the cultivation of the clarity, the confidence, the congruency, the consistency necessary to increase your capacity to then manage those things. With the clarity comes your ability to identify what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. This is not about growing some internal capacity to the point that you can take on the entire world. It's about growing in a capacity that is aligned with your design, that informs you what you should and should not be taking on at any given time. Wisdom comes to mind. Discernment comes to mind when I think of this. That's a part of your capacity. Your ability to make quality decisions, your ability to navigate situations, your ability to nurture relationships, all of these things. Just an introduction. I'm just freestyling. I'm just sharing my heart. I'm just letting you know that this is where I'm planting my flag and this is what we're going to be doing for quite some time. I believe that it is high time, my time, to begin to educate, to begin to inspire, to begin to employ, to begin to engage with this concept for the benefit of others in a way that I've never engaged with it before. I believe that this is what I'm here for. I believe that this is what is so desperately needed in the church, in corporate America, in homes and families around this world, where people can begin to see themselves in a way that causes them to have a conversation with themselves that contains such great grace and mercy and appreciation and acceptance, that it lends to a sort of relationship with oneself that builds and that cultivates and that nurtures your internal permission to go about life in a state of alignment, in a state of congruency with your divine design. And that eliminates the burnout, that eliminates the overwhelm, that eliminates the emotional fatigue, that eliminates the internal conflicts. No, it doesn't make life perfect. No, the rain is going to fall on us all. This is not about a perfect life, free from conflict, free from issue. This is about developing a life where you are able to navigate with greater clarity, greater consistency, greater confidence, greater congruency, greater conviction. Not perfect, but much better. Much better. Most people don't need life to be perfect. People just need life to be manageable, where they don't feel victimized, where they don't feel marginalized, where they don't feel less than, where they don't feel like every time something comes around the block, man, every time an issue rises, they're just being swamped by it. Their nervous system gets overloaded, and they don't know how to make a decision. They don't know how to make the next move. They feel internally stuck. It gets you out of that. It gets you out of that. And it also makes life enjoyable. It also makes life worth living. It also makes life meaningful and satisfying. This is what I'm talking about. I know there are people that are desperate to live this kind of life. And by God's grace, I've experienced so much of this in my own personal life, and I will not keep it to myself. I cannot, and I will not keep this information to myself. Someone needs to hear this. Someone needs to know this. And what I'm saying today is I am availing myself. I am available to show up wherever this is needed, to show up and to serve and support the success of organizations around this world, organizations that need to hear this, churches that need to hear this, nonprofits that need to hear this, faith-based organizations, faith-informed organizations, leaders, individuals who need to hear this information, because we have a faith, but we're not feeling it. We're not experiencing it. We're not living it. There's a gap between what we know is possible and what we're actually experiencing. And I believe that this framework fills that gap. In fact, I know it does. I'm the proof. I'm the proof. And so, in closing, I want to share these two quick breakdowns so that it is abundantly clear what we're talking about. The self-concept, what you believe to be true of you. I believe at the center of that concept needs to be what? What are you? What are you? In the what is the value. In the what is the information, the inspiration. You learn your design. You learn your character. You learn who you are to be and why you are. When you develop a concept based upon what God has created you to be, the contribution, the idea, the inspiration of God, the innovation of God, the very idea of God, which, like all other ideas, are solutions to problems, answers to questions. This is what you are at your core, a contribution to the betterment of society. Everything in this world, the universal principle of life is that everything that is in service and support of the success of something else. That is a universally applicable law, reality, fact. Everything that is created for the purpose of serving and supporting the success of something else. Name anything in life, that's what it's doing. That's what it's doing. That's why it's here. Otherwise, it would not exist. It would not be here. So when you have a concept of you based on what you are, you're then informed as to who you are. In other words, how you show up in this world, how you show up, the character that you carry. Like an actor in a movie, they get into character. And when the director says action, they behave a very specific way. They say very specific things. They do very specific things. They take very specific actions. They look through a very specific lens. They have a very specific perspective. They have a very specific perception of life, because the character dictates the conduct. And in the same way, our self-concept in real life represents that character, our character. And our character determines our conduct. And so understanding what your concept is now and making intentional efforts to improve it, if it's not what you like, if it's not what you are in agreement with, if it doesn't align with the best possible conversation that you can have with yourself, that empowers you, that equips you, that gives you the framework that you need, that gives you your starting point. And then once you are aware of the concept and you're beginning to make those calibrations, those tweaks, those upgrades to your to your concept, then that's going to flow right into, and that's going to inform the conversations that you're having with yourself. You're going to say things to yourself that build you up and not tear you down. You're going to have conversations with yourself that inspire you versus depleting and deflating you. You're going to begin to self-inspire. You're going to begin to self-promote. You're going to begin to self-educate. Right? You're going to be having conversation with yourself, saying, like a coach or a mentor or a pastor or a leader, listen, buddy, this is who you are. This is how we go about life. You're going to begin to have that dialogue that begins to be constructive and elevating. It's going to begin to move you into a headspace where you're going to begin to see how easy this thing called life really is. Through those conversations, you're going to begin to build the capacity to do things you've never been able to do before. You're going to begin to be able to maintain that peace, that joy, that happiness, that level of contentment and satisfaction, that dignity, that respect. You're going to begin to maintain that. Every little thing that comes around won't rob you of that. Every problem that shows up won't rob you of that. Every issue that shows up won't rob you of that. You're going to maintain your dignity. You're going to maintain your self-respect. You're going to maintain your resilience. Everything that shows up isn't going to rob you of that, because you're going to know what you are. And that's going to inform what you're saying to yourself. And that's going to inform the capacity that you are able to maintain. And through that capacity, you're going to maintain those things, and you're going to begin to manage the cares of life, the things of life. Some things you need to give to Jesus. Some things you need to hold on to and work through and let work on you. That wisdom, that discernment I was talking about. You're going to become a master navigator of your life, where you're not going to feel like life is just dragging you around like a dog on a leash, but you're going to begin to lead your life. This is what I'm talking about. Don't you want that life? Don't you want that reality? Don't you want that faith? Don't you want that religion? Aren't you tired of reading your Bible and saying to yourself, man, I'm seeing it in the Bible, but I'm not seeing it in my life? Man, Jesus is talking about it. Why am I not able to really talk about it? Man, I see these miracle signs and wonders. Why am I not experiencing these miracle signs and wonders? Aren't you tired of being a Christian, seeing something in the text, but not seeing it in your life. This is what I'm talking about. I'm tired of it for you, and I'm available. I'm available. Faith based organizations who are listening, I'm available to speak. Individuals, leaders, Christian men, women of faith, you're struggling. I'm available for coaching. I'm available. I'm available. Come get me. Come get this. Let's do work. Let's get at it. Let's get about it. Let's be about it. If you know somebody who needs me, tell them I'm available. Guys, the self-concept, what we see in ourselves determines the conversation. What we say to ourselves determines the capacity. What we sustain for ourselves, sustaining that maintenance, sustaining that management, increasing our capacity. That's all I'm going to say for today. This was my freestyle edition. Just had to get some things off my chest. And as we go forward with the next episode, I'm going to be intentional about breaking this thing down so that you can apply it in your everyday life. Yeah. I love you guys. I'm praying for you guys. I believe in you guys. Let's remember, relate better to yourself, create better for yourself and those around you. God bless you.